the roommates introducing Jordan Peterson. Jordan Peterson is a psychologist or whatever, clinician. He was a professor. He's from Canada. He came to fame or prominence from basically Canada. Well, I forget which exact province he was in or state or whatever they call it up there. But they passed a law stating that you have to call trans people by their preferred pronouns. And he took a stance and was basically like, "Hey, this goes against my freedom of speech." So he was like, "Look, I don't think I should be forced to call someone by a particular set of pronouns. I think, I have no problem with calling them, but I shouldn't be forced. It shouldn't be legislated," which he makes a good point. If it's freedom of speech, then you can't say, "Hey, you have to say this or you have to say that," right? That violates the freedom of speech. So those were his stances, right? So he came to prominence from that. But then he had other stances that are favorable, especially in the red pill community, against feminism and against other LGBT stuff that, and he seems right leaning, meaning he's more conservative. And he may not be a conservative, but he has a large conservative following, meaning, people who were like Trump supporter type people, alt-right type people, they would follow him. Now, you can't help who you follow, but the things that he was saying appeal to these people, right? And so it's not surprising that a lot of people in the red pill community are fans of this guy. And we're gonna see here the difference between being a fanboy and being a fan, which, like I said, I don't believe you should be either, but we're gonna have two examples of fans, self-admitted fans of Jordan Peterson, actually, be critical of Jordan Peterson. And so even if you state that you're a fan of someone, you still have to be able to be critical. But if you can't be critical of a person that you are a fan of, then you're a fanboy, right? But like I said, I don't believe we should. I think you should respect. You can respect someone's gifts, like Michael John White was saying. He thinks Floyd Mayweather is the most advanced boxer or fighter, boxer ever, or whatever. I happen to agree with that. I'm not a fan of Floyd, but I do respect the gifts and the skills and the work ethic and the things that he did in order to get to that elite level. So I respect those things that he was able to accomplish in the ring, and those things some of the things that he's done outside of the ring, I respect. But I'm not a fan, so I can criticize him and be objective about him. So let's jump into the clip here. I think the brother's name is Hafeez. He's from the roommates. He's introducing Jordan Peterson here.
It's 5 years ago, and I was sitting down and I turned on YouTube, and then all of a sudden I see this thumbnail of this distinguished gentleman on Joe Rogan's podcast, and I said, "Oh, this seems like an interesting conversation." I clicked on that thumbnail and watched the video, and it absolutely changed my life. The wisdom, the knowledge, the information that this man was sharing, the things that he was talking about, the way he could construct his ideas, it was so absolutely powerful to me. And for the next couple of years, every time this man put out a video, I would watch and consume every piece of content. And I went ahead and I wrote down on a piece of paper, I said, you know what? If anything can happen, what will be an absolute honor is for me to be able to sit down and have a conversation with this man. So I made it one of my life goals. I said, without a shadow of a doubt, I would sit down and have a conversation with this man. And I would always write it down, and I always pray to God, God, give me this opportunity. I'm glad to say, about over 4 years later, my prayers were answered, and I got the opportunity right now to sit down with one of my favorite human beings of all time. This individual is on my Mount Rushmore of people right besides my father and obviously Gary Vee as well. And I am beyond ecstatic to introduce the audience to this man, and hopefully the words that he shares today will bless you as much as it has blessed me. So without further ado, please guys, welcome to the show, the one and only Dr. Jordan B. Peterson. Jordan.
Okay. All right, let me stop it here before we go on. And I couldn't watch too much more past this when I first saw this, the video, because I thought it was totally disrespectful for him to say what he just said about a man that you don't know, that you've only seen on YouTube. You don't know personally, you only seen on YouTube or read his books or seen videos of him or interviews of him, and you say you put him on the Mount Rushmore of favorite people next to your father. I thought it was totally disrespectful to his father, because your father, who raised you up, protected you, provided for you, done more than Jordan Peterson could ever do for you in a lifetime. I don't care how much knowledge he imparted to you, but to raise you, how can you ever repay your father for, one, providing the seed? And I know some people may say, hey, well, that was a moment of pleasure or whatever for him, but he still provided a seed because he could have chose not to. And then raised you up, let me even go back, picked your mother to be your mother, right? That's the first responsibility a father has to his child, is to find a good mother for his unborn child. You find a good mother. So he did all this, raised you up, provided for you, protected you, was the first example of a man that you ever saw, right? And to put someone equal to him, I thought that was totally disrespectful. I don't care how much I learned from another man that maybe my father didn't know. My father might, is not the most educated person ever in the world. And I may learn things from other men or other people that I didn't learn from my father, but there's nothing that I could ever do to repay my father for what he did for me to be who I am and where I am. And I'm not going to put anyone equal to him, on that. There's no one that's ever going to be equal to what my father did for me, right? And I was pretty much like, oh my God, is this the type of interview we're going to have here? Right when I saw it. And but let me keep going here, because I thought it got worse, and I stopped it not too much longer after this.
Dr. Jordan Peterson, welcome to the show.
Hi, Hafeez. I don't think I've had a nicer introduction than that, so much appreciated. I'm looking very much forward to talking to you.
It's a pleasure. I told myself I'm not going to cry, but
I probably will.
A lot to me. This means a lot to me, and I'm super grateful. So, Dr. Peterson, for those who don't know you, can you give a bit of an elevator pitch synopsis about who you are, what you do, and all that good stuff?
Okay. So that's I stopped it. I was like, okay, this is nuts. I mean, you're about to cry because you're talking to another man. I mean, I said, man, we have people in the red pill community or the manosphere, or the black manosphere, whatever, talk about manhood and being men and so forth, and you're about to cry because you're talking to another man. It just weird to me. I mean, I guess I just don't operate that way. So I'm not trying to shame the brother. This is not about shaming. Black men absolutely have the agency to cry. We are human beings. We have a full range of emotions, right? Because some people will say, well, black men are told not to cry, not to cry. No, that's not true. What I've always heard is for black men to understand why they are crying, not that they can't cry. Even as a young boy, why are you crying? Not you can't cry. But anyway, that's a whole different, we want to go down a tangent. But this is just more of a corrective action and just advice. I mean, I'm not sure why the brother is crying over a man that he hasn't even met in person and putting this man on the same pedestal or as his father. I just thought that was a bad look and disrespectful to his father. So, I enjoy what the brother is doing. They seemed like they have a lot of good interviews over there, and they are growing so much success to them. But just understand that, it's not a good thing to be a fanboy. You can't be objective, and it will render you to not use logic and use emotion. And we saw that in this particular clip. Those are my final thoughts. Peace, Rebel family.